Hi everyone, I'm Cheryl and welcome to the Sewing Room channel. In this video, I'm going to demonstrate how to make this beautiful fall table topper. Now make sure you go through your scrap pile when you're making this because you can use so many different fabrics all in this one table topper. And also remember, you can make it out of other themed fabric if you like for other seasons of the year. Now let's go over the supply list. The finished size of this table topper for the larger one is going to finish out anywhere between 41 and 43 inches, somewhere around in there. For your fabric A, you're going to need 1/2 yard and you'll cut 4 12.5-inch squares. Now your fabric A and B are your larger squares. You want to make sure they're different colors from each other. One dark, one a little bit lighter, or a print and the other a solid. So your B fabric is the same size. Fabric C, you'll need 1/4 yard, and also fabric D, 1/4 yard. Out of each of those, you'll cut 2 squares, 6.5 inches. Fabric E and F are your strips that go around the outer edge. Out of each of those, you're going to cut 4 2.5 inches wide by 42 inches long. When you cut those strips, leave your fabric folded in half like it is when you purchase it in the fabric store, and cut it folded, and keep moving your ruler over every 2.5 inches, and that way it's going to be a lot easier to cut out your strips. Fabric for the back, you're going to need about 1.25 yards, and then your cotton batting also 1.25 yards. Take your 4 smaller squares, and this is going to be in the center, and you want to stitch a dark and a light together. So you want to make sure your fabrics have a sharp contrast to them, and bring front sides together for both of them, and then stitch a 1/4 inch seam all along here. Then at your ironing board, press the seams on the back side and have your darkest fabric on top, and then unfold the fabric and press on top. And what you're doing is you're pressing this seam towards the darkest fabric, and you do that on both of them. Then take one and flip it in the opposite direction like that, and now bring them on top of each other and line up your seam in the middle. And you want to place a pin there to hold this seam together. So the seam on the bottom should be going in the opposite direction than the seam on top. And then of course pin it all the way across, but pin your seam first. Then stitch a 1/4 inch seam all along here. After stitching, then press it on the back side and then unfold it and press it on top. And you want to make sure that your seam goes all in the same direction so that there's no little bumps in the fabric. So this is what it should look like on the back, and then here it is again on the front. Now you're going to take all your fabric squares that you've cut out for this table topper, and you're going to place them in this order. I have my 4 patch right here with the 4 little squares in the very center. Then I take my other larger squares and I've placed them like this. Now all of your larger squares can be different fabrics. They don't have to be necessarily this, but I chose to use 2 different colors for my larger squares. So now you're going to take each row at a time and stitch it together. So you're going to take this first row here and bring front sides together. So line up your edges, and I suggest that you pin them, especially if you're not used to sewing, and then stitch a 1/4 inch seam along here. Then unfold it take your next square and place it on top and stitch a 1/4 inch seam. Then after you stitch this row together, then go to your next row and stitch it, and then your last row, and do the same thing. Right now you're looking at the back of all of these rows, and I'm showing you the back because I want to make sure you understand how your seams are supposed to be going, which direction they're supposed to go in. So when you're pressing your rows, again, press your seams individually on the back side, then you would unfold and press on top, pushing the seam all in one direction. All of your rows, the seams here and here on all of the rows need to go all in one direction. It doesn't matter if it goes all to the right or all to the left. Just make sure they go all in one direction. Take your middle row and flip it. So now that the center row is going in the opposite direction. And we're doing that so that the seams will match up and the seams will lay nice and flat. So after you've pressed all your seams, now you want to stitch all the rows together. So you're going to take your first 2 rows and bring front sides together. And the first thing you want to do is match those seams. So you want to make sure that the seam on the bottom is going in the opposite direction of the seam on top. And I would put pins to secure your seams together. So you want to do this also over here. Match it up. So pin your seams first, then pin the rest of the way across and stitch a 1/4 inch seam all the way. Then take your third row and add it on to your center row. After stitching, you want to make sure again that you press your seams on the back side, then press on top. At this point, it doesn't matter which direction the seams are going in, just as long as they're all, that one particular row is not twisted, that it's all going in one direction. Now I'm going to show you how we're going to cut the corners off at a diagonal. To cut these corners, I'm using a rotary cutter and a long 24-inch long ruler. And I'm going to place the ruler on the corner here and here. So take your time lining up your ruler because you don't want to make a mistake on this cut. So go ahead and cut this corner off. And don't throw this piece of fabric away. You want to save it for another project. So go around to all 4 corners and do this diagonal cut. Now we're going to start stitching on our 2.5 inch wide strips all the way around the outer edge. So take your first one and place it front side down, and you want to leave some extending out past each end. You don't want to cut it exactly to this. So it's always better to have too much than not enough. And go ahead and pin it down, pin it all the way across, and then stitch 1/4 inch seam. Now you want to press it on the back side and then unfold and press on top. And so now it should look like this. So take your ruler and line up your ruler on the edge of this square here and trim it off. And then you would go to the other corner and do the same thing. So for each strip that you've cut, you should be able to get 2 edges done. So go around to all of your edges and do this step. After you've got 1 row complete all the way around, then take your next set of strips and repeat the process. Go ahead, lay it down on your edges, stitch 1/4 inch seam, press, and then trim it and go all the way around. After you've got all your strips stitched around the outer edge, then you want to layer your fabrics. I've already got mine layered, so I'll show you in just a moment how I did that. So the reason why you layer everything is that you'll have your fabric on the back, then cotton batting, and then the fabric for the top. And you layer them so that you can get it ready for quilting stitches. So let me set this aside and I will bring in a sample here. So here's a little miniature table topper right here. So I've cut my cotton batting the same size as the table topper. And how you would do that is you would take your table topper, lay it on top of your cotton batting, and trim around the edges. Then take fabric and make sure your fabric is larger than your cotton batting and table topper. You want at least 1.5 inches extending out past all edges. And then you want to pin all the layers together. The purpose of the quilting stitches is to hold all 3 layers of the table topper together. And in order to do quilting stitches and have them look correct, you need something like a walking foot like this. And this walking foot helps to move all 3 layers of fabric evenly under the presser foot. Otherwise, you'll get pin tucks and fabric stretching. This little piece right here goes over the screw that holds the needle in your machine. And here are some suggested types of stitching. You can either do straight stitches, you're just going top to bottom and side to side, and this is a serpentine stitch. It's a wavy line. Most computerized sewing machines have it on there. So you would go about stitching it on just like you would do the straight stitch. Make sure you test the stitch out and make sure it has a nice wide wavy line. So you may have to change your stitch length and stitch width. After your quilting stitches are all done, you're going to cut your fabric that's on the back 1 inch wider than your table topper. So place your ruler's 1 inch line on the edge of the table topper. Place it there, and once you take your time lining it up, and then go ahead and trim it off. And you would go around to all of the edges and do that. Now you're going to press your edges. So how you should do that is fold the raw edge over to be even with the edge of your quilt top. So it's pressed like that. So press all the way down and then fold it one more time over the edge and press again. Then go to your sewing machine and stitch close to the inside folded edge here all the way down. And keep repeating that all the way around the edge of your table topper. This really turned out beautiful, and it's not a table topper that takes too long. It's something you could make in a weekend. What I liked about this is I used up a lot of my scrap fabrics on this. Some of the pieces were new pieces of fabric. Others, like the strips, the smaller squares, some of these in here were all leftover fabric from other fall projects. Now you don't have to make this out of a fall, with a fall theme I should say. You can make it for Christmas or any season of the year. You could also place this on a round tabletop and it would look just beautiful on it. I put this on my rectangular table. I have a very long table and this really looks pretty. If you want it smaller, then you just need to cut all of your squares smaller. For instance, in the center, these would be, I believe, around 4 3/4 each, and then your other squares, 9.5 inches, and that will make it smaller if you need it smaller. I hope you enjoyed this video tutorial. If you're interested in other table runners or table toppers for your dining table, then check below your YouTube screen for those video links. Also, make sure you follow me on Instagram and check out my Facebook page. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time, and happy sewing. If you like the Sewing Room channel, one of the best ways to show your support is to subscribe by clicking on that red subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. And don't forget to click on share to share this video with your friends. And make sure you click on the bell so you receive notifications for all my new videos. I'm Cheryl. This is Manny. See you next time.